All right, welcome back to Restaurantopia. We are here with the normal crew: Brian Seitz,
Good morning.
Anthony Hamilton,
How you doing?
and Dave Ross. We got a great episode here. So Anthony's going to talk a little bit about simple is best, but it ain't easy, man.
Imagine a perfect world where you can build a restaurant, open the doors, and make loads of money. Unfortunately, those days are over. It takes great leadership, hard work, and long hours to operate a successful restaurant. Together, we can make it happen. This is Restaurantopia.
It's called simple is best, but it ain't easy, man.
No, it's true. There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. So really what this spawns down to is I've been meeting with a lot of operators, and there's two things that come up. First thing is labor. Everyone wants to talk about labor. Anthony, what do you got for labor solutions?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, the only thing I can tell you right now is the unemployment seems to be leveled out to where it was. We've lost a lot of people in this business, and I think that's become very, very apparent. I think the speculation is nearing over, and we've realized that a lot of people just migrated out, right? And agree or disagree? Or there's more restaurants opened.
I think it could be both, but I agree with the people have left the industry.
Yeah. So what?
I have a theory on this.
Yeah.
Love it.
Every place is hiring.
Yeah.
Where did everyone go?
Well,
So I believe there's a certain amount of people who have left the workforce and who will come back, but it will be slow. I'm shocked.
I agree with you that there's some that are going to get up off the couch sooner than later and get back to work. But but when I look at the restaurant industry in general, I think that the pandemic has uncovered a lot of things that we were doing wrong for a long time.
Yeah, we
I
need.
agree. I totally agree with that, yeah.
So now, like, somebody takes some time off or gets laid off and is a little bit, negative attitude towards maybe that establishment or the industry, and people lost their jobs that week.
And they worked at the place for 10 years.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And
So,
there's no
and
security.
depending on how the management and ownership handled that situation, somebody could be jaded towards.
Yeah.
Well, and let's not forget that a lot of the people in the hospitality business had some other dream, had some other profession.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there's a myriad of circumstances that may
It's
have.
the whole industry.
Yeah,
typically.
Right.
I mean, the
go to
majority
LA,
of
they're
it,
all
like,
actors, right?
yeah,
Aspiring
right.
actors, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people use that opportunity to go pursue their real calling. So listen, simple is best, but ain't easy. And what I mean by that is I'm going to operators and I'm seeing two different things. I'm seeing them having to make uncomfortable decisions in a couple different ways. And one specifically is, we talked about the labor shortage at the top of this thing before we got completely digressed. The labor shortage is probably real and probably more permanent than what we. He's like, I think so.
I definitely say real, but I love what you're saying, permanent. And Dave said this too. Like, it's here to stay.
Yeah.
And again, what that form looks like and how we react to it, you have to do something because, thinking that you're going to get the next crop of, 17-year-old kids from the local high school is not going to happen.
Well, and listen, if you're an operator sitting there saying like, well, the unemployment's, extra unemployment's over, and any minute now they're going to come rushing into work. Like, if you're waiting for that, like,
So, and that's
It ain't gonna
where,
happen.
and that's exactly right. And that's where I'm at with what in my consultation now is I'm telling these people like, hey, listen, build your business around this being permanent and you'll be ready for anything.
Yep.
Because again, what happens is if you're hoping for that new influx of employees that come through and you get them and that's great, but guess what? You're just vulnerable again.
Yeah.
Like, so now I'm telling people like, listen, you have to change your business model. Like, stop wishing, stop hoping, stop praying, take some action and do some things different. And that's where the topic of this show comes in. Simple is best, but it ain't easy, right? The other thing I'm finding out is the menu decisions that they're having to make right now. And whether it's pricing or everything else. Those are the two most uncomfortable things that we have to deal with in consulting. The labor one, I wish I had more control of. The menu one's not a problem. I can help out with that.
Well, but I think the labor one is solved by what you just said. Mm-hmm. Go out there and be proactive. What are you doing to find people? Dave said, are we wishing and hoping our way to new hires? No, that will not work. Are you going to the grocery store and seeing that they're advertising for $11? Go talk to every single person that works there and say, hey, I offer 13. Are you going to other businesses that are offering a low wage or a comparable wage and say, hey, I have a better culture, I have a better environment, I have a more loving, caring business, and I would love for you to be on my team? Are you asking your staff to go out there and find the people that they know would be great people to work for you? But also, are you honoring your current staff to make sure that they actually feel that way, that they feel like they're in a loved environment, that is a great company? What are you doing proactively? Are you dealing with the local organizations to try to get people in as applicants? You have to think outside the box. Thinking that ZipRecruiter or Indeed is going to be this cure-all and this panacea of new employees is false. You have to do the work.
Yeah. And to the point is it's great to go out and recruit and it's great to do all that. But I'm talking even your business model. So if you can't find the labor you need, then reduce your need for labor.
Right.
And that's what it's coming down to.
I love that.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I just coined it, right?
Well, I mean, are we cutting our fries? Because maybe that's not going to be the future.
It's funny because I had that exact conversation. I sent over a picture of a hydraulic fry cutter and said, I just eliminated a man for you. I just eliminated 20 hours a week. It's $2,000. It'll pay for itself in a month.
Nice.
There you go. Hydraulics. You just push the button. Just put a potato in, cut some vegetables, put a potato in, it takes care of itself. So anyway, those sorts of things you got to look at. But what it comes down to is trimming the menu is the biggest thing I'm seeing, and arguably the biggest trend that started even a little bit before the pandemic. And I've been a huge champion of this because I hate menu anxiety. I hate the 12-page menus. You have to make these uncomfortable decisions to make the processes simpler for your people. The idea is that arguably the most successful line cook is going to produce one thing over and over and over and over again. That muscle memory, that cruise control, the quality is going to be higher, the consistency is going to be there, the time is going to be there because they're cooking the one thing. Yeah. As you spread that offering out, they end up getting stretched, and they don't have the same muscle memory, and they have to think more, and there's more propensity for mistakes and all these things. So I'm like, listen, make it easier, make it simpler. I know it's not easy to cut off these emotional dishes, whether it's grandma's meatloaf or my Aunt Chris's fried peppers or whatever the case. The fact is, they're hard to do. Mm-hmm. They're in my bottom 25% of sales.
Yep.
There's a lot of prep involved. I got to spend time ordering them and chasing them around town due to distribution shortages.
Yep.
I got to deal with receiving them and checking the quality. I got to make sure my prep cook knows how to do it. I got to make sure they're stored properly. I got to make sure I have room and it's organized to store them. I got to make sure that my servers are hip to it. I got to make sure that my diners order it, so on and so forth. If I just take them off the menu, I eliminate the need of every step of that chain I just talked to. We'll call it a micro supply chain for the sake of restaurants. I just eliminated that whole thing, and that was just one menu item. Now imagine if I do that 20 times. Now all of a sudden I can eliminate the need for 3 or 4 different full-time positions, arbitrarily speaking, and now all of a sudden you don't have a labor shortage.
What's your perfect menu look like? And I'm going to break it down just so it's like simple. Is it 5 appetizers, 5 entrees? Like what is it? Like what does it look like?
Largely it depends on the segment, but yeah, smaller is better, man. You know, it used to be, Brian, what we would do is we would have these huge menus because we wanted to be all things to all people.
Oh, yeah.
And then our focus was as chefs, how many different ingredients can I dovetail to be efficient? Mm-hmm. And now what we're seeing is small menu, wildly different dishes, almost zero crossover and dovetailing, but the efficiency lies in the fact that your menu is tiny. Mm-hmm. And I love that because you know what it is? Now all of a sudden I'm a specialist. My cooks are specialists for these menu items. They're not generalists anymore. They're not superficial knowledge. They know every in and out of this particular menu item because they make it 50 times a night as opposed to 5 times a night.
And can you make, and Dave says this all the time, why have 12 cheeseburgers on the menu when you can have one amazing cheeseburger?
Yeah.
Right. Or 2 or 3. And
Right.
But I think if you go back to what I'm hearing in this conversation, if you go back to episode 37, 38 with Chip Close, like identify who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And what do you want to be known for?
For everybody.
Everybody.
Not going to work.
Yeah,
those days are gone. Like, we're not New York City diners anymore, right? Have you guys ever had the pleasure when you can eat like a steak and like a omelet with béarnaise sauce at 3 a.m. and they're equally as greasy and good, you know?
Delicious. Yeah. Now that is a cook.
That's a serious cook, right?
The man in the back or woman is a cook. That guy has some skills.
Cigarette hanging out of their mouth.
Oh, flipping
pancakes for a bunch of drunk college kids and doing it with so much integrity. Yeah. You know, like I miss those. I lived in New York for a while going to school, and man, those diners are cranking. You know, you can get anything you want. But anyway, those days are gone. Stay in your lane. Understand what it is you do incredibly well. Understand what it is your people want, what you want to be known for, and eliminate all the trim. Because you're sitting here banging your head off the table looking for staff, and you're trying to find someone, but the fact is you might not need them if you just look internally and audit your system. So again, this is talking about simplifying your processes. The bigger your menu, the more complex your processes. Mm-hmm. And I know it ain't easy because there's an emotional attachment here. Your sales reports, your menu engineering, all this stuff we talked about before will help you get down this. In fact, in the last week, I've worked with 2 different operators. I watched one clip 25 menus or 25 items off their menu with a Sharpie in front of me. Wow. And the other one was 18.
So, but again, how many?
Were you moving the menu underneath there?
Yeah. No, that would be awesome.
How many menu items were on there?
They had like 60 or 80, you know? So, but listen, that's only step one. What's going to happen is they're going to get addicted to it. And I know the one person, and what's sad about it is we talked about this a year ago, and they're waiting now till they're painted into a corner to do it. And it's like, dang, I wish you were ahead of this because you really would have enjoyed the advantage.
And think about, this goes back to our episode about discipline equals freedom. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jocko, you got to get that book. It's amazing.
He scares me.
but in a good way.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
because
right.
he's gonna take you to the promised land. Like,
I'm telling you, if he told me to do 1,000 push-ups, it's physically impossible. I'd still do 1,000 push-ups, right? Just out of fear.
I mean, you're an athlete. You just told us about your softball.
Yeah,
escapades.
I'm going to the big leagues, bro.
Oh my God.
I bat eighth and play second base for a second-rate softball league, for the record.
Where
Got
is-
mercy twice.
Yeah, go.
Where you did get mercy twice?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't pitching.
Okay.
I didn't have any errors. Okay.
Well, it sounded like the team did.
Nah, teammates are good. Everything is good. Anyway,
It was
let's
fun.
move
It was
on.
fun. It was
Oh my
fun.
God, it was a blast.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. And we heard that Anthony ran for the first time in quite some.
Can I tell you how my hip flexors feel? You have
Oh.
no idea what happens when you don't use a muscle group. So right at the top of the quads, they pull your legs up when you run.
Yeah.
Guys, I haven't tried to sprint since my accident. And on that field, you're in the middle of competition. You're going to sprint,
Mm-hmm.
you know? It was the first time I've sprinted, and they're still sore today. I still have to lift my legs up to get out of my car
Okay.
with my hands.
That doesn't sound fun.
Hey, that
It wasn't great. The game was amazing. I'm looking forward to tomorrow, too. We'll see what happens. Anywho, we were talking about discipline and Jocko Willink and all that jazz.
Yeah, no, it's not easy to be disciplined. It's not easy to be simple, as you said. But
It's simple, but not easy.
yeah. But you have to do it.
There's no question. Like streamlining your operation again, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to reduce the amount of labor you need so you can create your own labor surplus, as opposed to dealing with the industry and allowing the industry to set the table for you. You're setting the table for the industry. And I know it's not a one size fits all, but I would challenge any operator out there, if they examine their menu and take off all the emotional additions that used to be specials that somehow slid their way onto the menu.
Yeah.
Look at your sales report, like, objectively, no emotion whatsoever. Look at your data objectively, check the emotion at the door, look at your menu, cross those things off, and watch how it rolls for a week.
What was the episode you did that it was early on and it was amazing? It had the chart.
Thanks, buddy.
And the menu.
That's menu
out.
engineering. Yeah.
Listen to
It was
that
episode
episode.
18, I think, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Somewhere around there. It was right at the beginning of the pandemic. But yeah, and you're right, Brian. You have to have your menu costed out for that, which makes it tough.
Yeah.
So what most operators
Oh,
do is...
you mean we have to do a little bit of homework?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
you do.
Right. No, you do. So what most operators do is they look at their POS report and just see the sales mix.
Yeah.
And that doesn't tell the full story, because
No,
you may
no.
have some diamonds in the rough down at the bottom that are highly profitable that if you put on a different place in the menu could be rock stars.
Yeah, just market them different. Or,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or price them different.
Have
you know?
different,
Yeah, yeah.
different shout out words or call out words, whatever the marketing term
You know
is.
it. So that's a psychological aspect of menu engineering. There's things you can do, but either way, if you can get a menu engineering quadrant up and running for your establishment, it's going to tell you very plainly what's good and what's bad.
Yeah.
And so you can just eliminate those. So I implore every operator out there, if you're looking and you're struggling with labor and you know you have some inefficiencies, sit with your stakeholders, right? So do your own analysis first and get a general idea of what you want to chop off the menu, and then sit with the people who actually do it every day. That's your kitchen managers and your chefs. If you ask them to complain, because they'll complain unsolicited anyway, sit down with them and ask them to complain. Like, what is the worst part about this day? Is it cutting fries? Is it executing this menu item? Is it this menu item? Is it prepping this? Whatever it is. And try to take an objective look. And because they're telling you what the most inefficient, what the most cumbersome, and what the most painstaking things are.
Yep.
So take their advice. If it matches up with your data, chop it off the menu. And not only have you helped your efficiencies and mitigated your labor need, but you've also made them happier because you've lessened the load on the mules that you have running your place now. And I say that with love, because these people are pack mules. They're bearing the load of twice the staff that they normally have, and they're grinding it out every day. Talk to a guy, hadn't had a day off in 4 weeks, working 7 12-hour shifts, but he's doing it for the love of the owner, the love of the business, everything else. That's admirable. But how long do you think it's going to last?
Yeah.
No. Talk to your people. I love that advice, because some of your people may want more hours, and probably not in this environment, but you want to get their feedback. Also, you want to get their buy-in.
Yeah.
You want them to be. You want them to be
Well, that's
invested.
just good leadership to
Yeah,
ask the
yeah,
employees,
correct.
like, okay, what do you hate? What do you not like? You know what I mean? And if they have a list of 10 and you can accomplish 2, like, that's a huge win.
What are you good at, and what do you like doing?
Yeah.
Like if they give you 2 things, then there should be no complaints.
Should be. But yeah, you're absolutely right. But again, it's just, boy, all of a sudden it creates a two-way street of communication. And a lot of times you have this authoritative, tyrannical leadership style, and the people don't have a voice. It ends up being taxation without representation.
That's
and then you have a mutiny.
pre-pandemic. That's pre-pandemic thinking.
Yeah.
And again, you see all that stuff, and your restaurant will fail. You are in this together with your team.
Culture
with
is
your-
everything.
Yeah, with your employees. This is your team, and you know what? You gotta. And I don't want to sound preachy, but you you gotta live that.
Yeah, you got to walk the walk. There's no.
Yeah.
It's one thing to say it, but it's you got to walk it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Exactly.
that's the biggest one, you know. And I know a lot of people are talking about like shortening hours and closing a day, and I like that. I don't like closing a day per week, but I like the day of kindness. Randomly close a day and announce it to your people. I think your audience laps it up. I think your staff will lap it up. But
I don't mind the close of day, especially when you're short and people
Yeah.
are working 6 or 7 days. It just forces everybody to have that day off. And I know, as long as it's communicated properly and the customer's not confused, I don't mind that. You know what I mean?
You got to communicate it well. We have operators that we all know of, some national chains that are closed one day a week, and they've trained up the customer to know that they're not going to be open on that day. But I think you have to just be hyper aware of your staff and the number of hours they're getting, that their mental health and physical health is okay, because
and juxtapose the situation.
Yeah.
As the owners typically work, the entrepreneur is addicted to achievement, right?
Yeah.
And they are happy working 7 days a week because they know if they're working 7 days a week, their bank account goes up and up and up and up, right?
it's also their mindset too.
100%.
Like, they're just wired that way. So
But you can't expect your employees to be.
no.
And you're in a highly competitive employee market right
Yep.
now. So you better level the playing field. And if it causes you to do things uncomfortably, then do them. Because if you don't have your staff, what do you have?
Correct.
Right. So anyway, we talked about the menu and the way to analyze the menu objectively, unemotionally, shrink it, simplify the process. And if you can go within the menu items and simplify those processes, that's recommended too. Again, it's all about mitigating your need for labor, right? There may be some prefab items you could slide in there that you don't have to prep anymore. And there's some really quality prefab stuff out there. So I'm going to say after that, zoom out and analyze your business, not just your menu, your business. Is there stuff front of the house is doing? Is there side work that's inefficient? Is there a lot of things that you're doing that maybe it's not time for your staff to clean the restaurant anymore? Maybe it's time for you to just hire a cleaning company to come in and clean up the mess because it's going to be cheaper. You're not paying overtime.
Yep.
And past the immediate expenses, let's talk about turnover expense. Because now you're riding these people 2 to 3 hours extra a night or an hour extra a night cleaning. If you alleviated that, would they stay longer?
I like that.
So you got to look at things like that from that angle. But start from your back door and walk through your restaurant. Talk to your staff. List all those things that bother you and bother them. Prioritize them. Map it out. And start making the changes. Put it on the calendar and say, look, every 3 weeks, every month, we're going to change this. And I would highly recommend you don't change too many things too fast because the culture is going to get confused and shit's going to get upside down. But the fact is you have a plan. You share it with your staff. And even though the things aren't done yet, they're going to get a huge sigh of relief knowing that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Because I can tell you they're weary.
And can you use technology to make things more efficient too?
Absolutely.
That's exactly where my brain's
Absolutely.
going.
Yep.
I think the next thing is potentially eliminating servers at certain concepts with the table ordering. I think that's just, again, I think that's out there.
I don't think you eliminate servers. I think you eliminate the number of servers.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
Right.
That's what I meant by
Yeah,
that.
you
Correct.
reduce
Not,
it, right.
not the position as a whole, but the number of people. And then
Well, a server can manage more tables, and then you've got maybe,
See, that's
maybe
it,
you got
right.
food
Yep.
runners, and
Yeah.
you've got all, I totally agree.
And I believe they become a brand ambassador, not a server anymore.
I love it. They're a concierge.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're there to answer any questions. They're there, and they can really focus on the finer things at that point because you've taken out, as you would say, the block and tackle.
Yeah.
I don't need a highly qualified staff member to write down my order. A computer can type that in and be more efficient than a person with no mistakes. I want that person to be not stressed. I want their personality to shine. I want them to make sure my diners are having a great time.
Correct. Hospitality.
I love it.
Not running your credit card. Like technology can run your credit card, using a handheld so they can run it at the table, whatever the technology is. But there's definitely things out there that you can do a holistic view of your operation and make it more efficient.
And conceivably, if we talk about if you do what we just talked about, how much staff could you eliminate? 25%?
But even if it's 10% or 15%, that's significant in this labor market.
That's usually what people are down. It only takes 1 or 2 employees to make it real tough on everybody. So if you can eliminate that.
I had an experience with an operator a couple weeks ago, and I want to ask your opinion on this, Anthony. So he's got a robust lunch business. Not, I wouldn't say upscale, but like very nice restaurant. And he was down a couple servers. I would say he's got 40 tables or so in the main dining room, and he was keeping people waiting to seat, and he had open tables.
Yeah.
And I asked him about it and then realized he was short, and he said, here's my thought process. when somebody's sitting in the lobby waiting to be seated, they're not. Their expectation is they're waiting.
Oh no, I share
when they're
that.
Sitting at the table,
I could
their
write
expectation is service.
Dave, that I just gave that advice in an email to an operator the other day because they were having 45-minute ticket times at their breakfast point. And I'm like, well, why'd you sit them down? Well, because they were waiting in line. I said, but when they're waiting in line, they don't need drinks, they don't need food, they don't need service.
Yeah.
When they're sitting down, that switch flips, and all of a sudden they want that. Yeah. I don't love creating a false wait, but I do love, and what you're missing from there too is
It's not false.
But right,
You're mitigating a wait.
it's a clever wait because you have 4 servers with 40 tables. Those servers can take 5 tables each. So what? You sit 20 tables sit empty. Yeah. It's nice if you have a curtain, or if it's nice you have an empty room where you can actually block that off so people can't see that, because diners say, well, what about that table? They don't understand the steps of service and how it ripples throughout the restaurant. Mm-hmm. What I was trying to explain to this operator is
when this was a one-time event that he went through,
yeah.
My thoughts were, if it's going to be more long-term, why don't you rearrange the seating chart?
100%.
Why don't you move the tables?
Yeah.
Why don't
You might have to remove some tables.
That I know, and that sounds ridiculous and painful.
No.
But that may
That's
be the
truth.
best move. Yeah.
Because that's sustainable business now. Mm-hmm. Listen, I can fill 40 tables on a Sunday and crash and burn. I can do it again next Sunday and crash and burn.
Mm-hmm. And then how many of those people are going to come back?
Well, not only customers, but staff.
Yeah.
Because I'm riding them too hard. So if I can take it down and I still make good money, because that's conceivable. You can make good money still. I keep my staff happy. I keep my customers happy. Yep. And now I'm making money long term. The other one's a short play. Yeah, I can fill the place up, put everybody on a wait, and make a ton of cash this week and next week. But the following week, I'm going to see a huge dip. I would rather see that common thread all across and sustainable long term money.
And that takes discipline.
I love it.
But it's simple, but it ain't easy.
Yeah, for sure.
Anthony, give us a recap. So give me your 5 bullet points.
Well, that's a lot. So what I would do is I'm looking at making things simpler for my staff so I have less of a need for staff. Okay. I'm trimming my menu.
Okay.
And we talked about how to go about that. That's more. But what I'm doing specifically, Brian, is I'm analyzing my business from A to Z. And I know I say this a lot. I'm taking a clipboard and a piece of paper, and I'm starting at my back door and my front door, and I'm walking through the entire operation, and I'm finding out what bothers me. Okay. I'm finding out what bothers my staff. Yep. I list it. And then I prioritize it based on the biggest impact it's going to have. And then I set dates, and I say, these are the day we make these changes. Mm-hmm. And then I stick to my calendar, and I make those changes. And again, I'm transparent. I have the servant leadership in mind. Everybody's on board. We make them as a team. I don't ever backtrack, because it was a big enough issue to change. I'm not backtracking, but that's as simple as it is. I just list it, prioritize it, and execute it.
I love it.
Done.
No, I love it. Thanks so much, Anthony. This was a great topic, and takes a lot of discipline to do some of these things.
It's hard.
Again, like you said, simple, but definitely not easy.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think the moral of the story is don't wait till you're painted into the corner. Take action now, so that way you're in front of the decision. The decision's not made for you.
Yeah, beautiful. No, thanks so much for listening.
Bye.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Eat.
I'm up against it.
This is a high-quality pod. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Adios.
Thank you for listening to Restaurantopia. The gratitude that we have for each and every one of you spending your precious time to listen to this podcast is immeasurable. Please make sure to tell a friend about this podcast. And also, if you have any feedback for us, visit us on restaurantopia.com and drop us a line. You can also subscribe on your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Thank you, and have a great day.
We also want to thank our sponsor, Hillcrest Food Service. If you are a local independent restaurant and are looking for a distributor who has chef and operational consulting, provides marketing support, does menu reviews, and most importantly, wants you to be successful, reach out to Hillcrest Food Service at hillcrestfoods.com. How would that even work?
Top bunk.
No, please stop.
Top bunk, right? Quit.
I'm out of here.
So, anywho.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
I think Troy said last night, you need to have one belly laugh a day, at least. I'm glad I started my day.
Okay, that's a good move. That's good advice.
I'm fucking crying.
Styles.
I was thinking, I don't know. I hope not. No. All right, we're back.
Oh my goodness!
All right. And we're back.